So let me ask you something. What if the greatest English wonder kid after Michael Owen and Wayne Rooney wasn't the one the headlines protected, but the one chaos quietly erased? Because for 15 unstoppable months, Daniel Sturridge wasn't just in form, he was untouchable. 44 goal contributions in 43 games, numbers that stacked up with Mbappe's early explosion in Paris and nearly mirrored Cristiano Ronaldo's first storm in Madrid. But stats alone don't explain what he was doing to defenders. The no backlift screamers, the outside of the boot finishes that bent physics, the effortless glide past center backs who looked frozen in time, the celebration every kid copied at school the next morning. He was pure instinct, a striker who didn't just score goals, he scored statements. But before Anfield sang his name, before the SAS era made Liverpool dream again, his life was already a battlefield. Raised in a football family inspired by his uncle's Premier League legacy and driven by a father whose own career collapsed under broken promises and managerial chaos, Sturridge grew up with talent in his blood and pressure in his lungs. His father fought every academy that hesitated, moved him from club to club, even dragged teams into legal disputes just to make sure his son wouldn't be buried like he was. And wherever Sturridge went, he dominated, tearing apart youth tournaments, winning golden boots, matching records only Carlos Tevez had touched, scoring in competitions no teenager was supposed to conquer, forcing Manchester City's hand with reserve team hat tricks that screamed, "Play me!" But football was changing fast. Just as his path to the first team cleared, the oil money arrived, global superstars flooded in, and development turned into instant ambition. Robinho walked through the doors, the spotlight shifted, and the wonder kid who should have been the future suddenly became expendable. This isn't just a story about hype. It's about timing, politics, injuries, expectations, and how razor-thin the margin is between becoming England's next immortal and becoming a name fans say with a sigh. Because Daniel Sturridge wasn't just a talent. He was a reminder that sometimes greatness isn't denied by ability. It's denied by circumstance. Even Joe, a signing widely labeled a flop and shipped out to Everton after just 6 months, somehow played more minutes in half a season than Sturridge did across an entire year at City. And although the club tried to patch the damage by handing him their Young Player of the Year award, the message was already clear. He wasn't part of the future. And when the second wave arrived, Santa Cruz, Adebayor, Tevez, Sturridge saw the writing on the wall. So he bet on himself again. He refused to renew, walked to Chelsea on a free, and sparked yet another courtroom battle, with City ironically demanding compensation for developing the very player they barely trusted, eventually settling for £8.3 million. But Stamford Bridge wasn't salvation. It was another war zone. Drogba and Anelka stood in front of him while trophies were lifted from the bench, and just when space seemed possible, Abramovich pulled the trigger on Fernando Torres, forcing Sturridge out to Bolton on loan, a move that would backfire spectacularly. While Torres became one of the Premier League's most infamous flops, Sturridge exploded, scoring in his first 4 games to become only the 6th player in history to do so for an English club, finishing with 8 goals in 12 matches and nearly claiming top scorer despite arriving mid-season. He returned sharper, scoring a goal of the season contender on his first game back under Villas-Boas, hitting 13 goal contributions by December, nearly 1 per 90, earning his first England call-up under Capello, only for Di Matteo to replace AVB and freeze him out entirely, granting him just 8 minutes from the Champions League knockout stages onward as Chelsea conquered Europe. Imagine that, lifting the biggest trophy in club football while feeling invisible. 6 more months of scoring when allowed, benched the moment he built rhythm, until he admitted the truth. He was scared he'd be lost to the game, falling out of love with football itself. So he moved again, and ironically, the club that sold Torres to Chelsea became his rescue, Liverpool. Even then, he wasn't the first choice. Rodgers reportedly wanted Clint Dempsey, arguing Suarez and Sturridge were too similar, too selfish to coexist. We were all wrong. Rodgers built a diamond 4-3-1-2 around them, calling Sturridge a 9.5, and within 7 minutes of his debut, he scored. Next game, goal against United. First league start, another goal. The first since Ray Kennedy in 1974 to score in his first 3 Liverpool matches. Weeks later, a screamer against City. Injury tried to interrupt him. Suarez's suspension forced him into the lone striker role, and instead of shrinking, he detonated. 8 goal contributions in 6 games, including a hat trick against Fulham, finishing his first Liverpool season with a goal or assist every 88 minutes. Then came the chaos. Suarez's strike, media storms, bans. But once they reunited, it wasn't playmaker and finisher. It was 2 predators hunting the same spotlight, pushing each other to madness. With Suarez banned for 6 games to start the new season, Sturridge carried the weight alone. 6 goals, Player of the Month, 14 goal contributions in 12 solo striker matches. When Suarez returned and dropped a hat trick to reassert dominance, Sturridge answered with an outrageous chip from distance. Even injuries couldn't silence him. Rushed back in a dying Merseyside derby, he scored a last-gasp header to salvage a draw, sacrificing his ankle in the process. Weeks later, brought on against Stoke with the game hanging by a thread, he assisted Gerrard and scored minutes later to seal it. Every time Liverpool needed oxygen, it was Sturridge breathing life back into them. This wasn't luck, this wasn't hype. This was a striker proving again and again that whenever football tried to push him out, he kicked the door back open. And if everything before wasn't absurd enough, this is where it became legendary. To cement that season among the greatest individual goal-scoring campaigns the Premier League had ever seen, Sturridge evolved again. He wasn't just finishing, he was dancing through defenses, chipping keepers for fun, scoring with swagger. An 8-match scoring streak followed, something only Ruud van Nistelrooy had ever done before him. Not Shearer, not Rooney, not Ronaldo, not even Suarez. 26 goal contributions in 23 matches, despite injuries. Before the era of the BBC at Madrid or the MSN at Barcelona, England had the SAS, Sturridge and Suarez. 2 complete forwards, 2 predators. They outscored all but 4 Premier League clubs by themselves. Rodgers even claimed Sturridge didn't need Suarez. He has every tool, every quality. He scored at the World Cup against Italy. Came back. Suarez was gone to Barcelona. Balotelli arrived. But that wasn't the real problem. 3 games in, thigh injury. Cleared to return, calf injury. Fix that. Thigh again. 5 months gone, 32 matches missed, then a hip surgery. Another 5 months. Klopp arrived promising to build around Firmino, Coutinho, and Sturridge. But October brought a knee injury. November, a foot. December, a hamstring. Still, every time he returned, he produced. 7 goal contributions in 7 matches. Europa League heroics. A goal against United in the round of 16. Missed the first leg of the semi-finals, returned in the second with a goal and assist to drive them to the final. And in that final, a Trivela goal. Outrageous. Unforgettable. The perfect opening to what should have been a redemption match. But Sevilla came back, the trophy slipped away, and even though he became the second fastest Liverpool player in the modern era to reach 50 goals, just 3 games slower than Torres despite all the injuries, the narrative had changed. Klopp's brutal honesty echoed. He needs to learn what is injury and what is pain. The truth is harsh. The injuries hadn't just broken his body, they'd broken his confidence. Once one of the fastest players alive, now hesitant, afraid of the next sprint. He had missed 614 days out of 1,120 goals. Could have been your lifeline. That last-minute goal against Wales at Euro 2016, that was the final spark. He was only 26. But there were only 38 starts left in his entire career. Just 8 full 90-minute matches. Mane arrived. Sturridge became an impact sub. Salah arrived. He became surplus. Even with a goal contribution every 85 minutes when he did play. A desperate move to West Brom exposed how fragile he became. Injured after 78 minutes, never truly starting again. Yet somehow, even amid the decline, he delivered moments. Goal of the month against Chelsea. A vital goal against PSG in the Champions League group stage. He became the first English player to win 2 Champions League titles with 2 different English clubs. Even if he watched both finals from the bench. And then came the final blow. 3 days after lifting the trophy in 2019, Liverpool released him. A betting violation, telling his brother about a potential Sevilla move. A 4-month ban after appeal, this time quietly. No comeback, no final roar. And that was it. Daniel Sturridge, one of the most gifted natural finishers of his generation. A player who could score goals you didn't think were physically possible. A man who at his peak stood toe-to-toe with the best in the world. But football is cruel. It doesn't remember what you could have been. It remembers what you sustained. He burned bright, blindingly bright, but not long enough. And maybe that's why we still talk about him.